How much is a private money prepayment penalty? Most beginners never even think about prepayment penalties until it's too late and it costs them thousands. Some lenders make money by trapping you, not really funding you. In this video, I'm going to explain what prepayment penalties are and how you can avoid getting burned by them. You'll know exactly what a prepayment penalty is, how it works, and how to negotiate around it. So you say, what is a prepayment penalty? Like, what do you mean by that? Okay, in a hard money loan or a savvy private lender loan, they may have terms that say, if you finish your flip prior to 6 months and you sell it, that's great for you. But I get paid 6 months of interest regardless. Now, the term could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months. The term is not important right now. You have to just know, does the contract you have with the private lender state that you have to pay a certain minimum amount of interest? So how does that affect you? Well, it affects your bottom line. Let's say, for instance, you borrowed $300,000 at 10% for easy math. So if you borrowed that money for 1 year, you would pay $30,000 in interest on that deal. If you borrow for 6 months, you're paying $15,000 in that deal. That's all fine and dandy, but Glenn, what if I got the house done in 3 months? Normally you'd pay $7,500 in interest, right? Well, if you got the house done, you say, hey, great, Mr. Lender, here's your check for $7,500. And they say, wait a minute, you owe me $15,000. But guess where that $7,500 you have to pay them comes from? Your profit, directly. So it's important to understand if you have that in your contract or not, because it can drastically affect your bottom line, especially if you didn't do too well on your flip in the first place. Look, you can't fault a savvy investor for doing this. Think about it. They can actually get double interest. So let's just say it was 10% that you were paying. And let's say that you were supposed to pay that for 6 months, but you were done in 3 months with that flip. Now you start your next flip and they reinvest that same money with you. But when they reinvest in the start of the 4th month, they're getting double interest because you're already paid for the other 3 months, right? Now they've loaned it again. They're getting 20% on their money. So you can't fault a private lender for doing that, but you should be aware of it so you can know how to negotiate around it. When you're looking at a contract, I would highly recommend that you have a professional, a lawyer or a title company, preferably a lawyer, take a look at the paperwork if they provide you with the paperwork. I'm going to tell you how to avoid this in just a minute. But what I want you to do is look and see if there's a prepayment penalty clause or if there's a minimum interest clause inside the document. It's important to know because sometimes they might hide it in there and not really have a discussion with you. They should disclose that up front. But if you sign and don't realize it's there, you might be shocked at the closing table. So be aware of exactly what you're signing. Better yet, have your own paperwork. When you have a private lender say, well, this is the paperwork that I use, and see if they're open to using your paperwork. Again, if they're a savvy investor, they're going to say, no, this is what we use. And then you have to say, well, why, and how does it work, and what do you have different, and have those conversations. And again, don't fault them. They're just smart investors. If you can get 20% on your money or 25 or 30% on your money for a few months out of the year, wouldn't you? Now look, everything is negotiable. Again, it just depends on the lender and how bad you need that money. If you're doing a deal and you know it's going to be a 3-month deal because you know that all it is going to be what we call an as-is flip. By the way, if you don't know what an as-is flip is, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We talk about all the different kinds of flips you can do. But an as-is flip, you can be in and out of in 60 days. You may want to tell the lender up front, look, I'm going to only need it for 60 days. What can we negotiate? And maybe on that, instead of a 6-month minimum, maybe it's a 3-month minimum. Or maybe they waive the minimum altogether because you are a repeat borrower and they start to get really used to the process and the system that you use, and they know that you're always going to keep their money deployed. That's what they want, is their money always deployed at the end of the day. They don't want to say, hey, I earned 12% on my money, but they have these gaps between every deal that you do where the money sits for 2 months and sits for 2 months, and now they're really only getting a net of about 8% for the year. They can get that in the stock market. Sometimes a minimum is a non-negotiable. It's something that you don't even have to think about because you know going into a full flip that this project will take me 6 months on a good day. And if the minimum is 6 months, it's not even a problem. So sometimes you don't even have to mention it. Although if you want to mention it for future deals, it's good to start at the very first deal and say, hey, what is this? And if I have a deal come up that's quicker than this one, Can we talk about getting this removed? And start the conversations earlier than later. And the bottom line is, you decide if having a minimum is worth it to you or not. It will affect your bottom line one way or the other. If you bought the house right with a deep enough discount, it may not really affect your bottom line that much. And if you walked away from the deal and that was the only lender that you could find, well, what's that saying? You're gonna cut off your nose to spite your face. So don't walk away from a deal where you could make $30,000 or let's say you could make $40,000, but because of that minimum, you're only going to net $32,000. You're still going to make $32,000. So focus on the positive, not the negative. It might be worth it to do that deal with a lender, but if they won't budge on that and you find it's costing you more money, here's the beauty of you owning your own business. Go find another private lender who doesn't charge minimums. Simple as that. A prepayment penalty only matters if you're in the wrong kind of deal. Go watch the next video, the crucial step that new investors always miss, where I'm going to teach you how to build a buy box. Once you have a buy box, you'll be able to attract a lot more lenders because you will look like a professional and you won't be locked into that one lender who's demanding that you have minimum interest payments all the time. So go check it out. The link is right here below.